All right. Last night, guys, we got into what happened on Tuesday, a little bit of a postmortem. And today, I want to break this into two parts. Andrew just laid out really what happened today into two different agendas from the president and then certainly from Republicans. So let's do the policy stuff first, and then we'll do the politics second, which is going to drive all of this. But on the politics first, Andrew said, and they doubled down on this today, repeal Obamacare. They didn't say replace. They want to go over it again. How many times? 52 times?
I think that's it.
Okay. 52 times, 51 times, 53 times. The point is, they've tried, it didn't pass. There is no way that the president will ever, even if he wakes up in the dead night and sleepwalks, he's not going to sign any legislation that repeals his signature achievement. It's not going to happen. But they're talking about it again. Do you have any reason to have optimism on a policy front that it's in the best interest of both parties to try and get some stuff done here? Take Obamacare. Do you think they'll try and tweak it, or Republicans are going to just say, hey, we won on Tuesday, let's try and get rid of the whole thing even if they know it has no chance?
Unfortunately, Richard, there's no way to discuss policy without involving politics right now. Both sides are headed on a collision course. It's not going to work. The president appears begrudgingly at the results of the election, and I'm going to come back to your Obamacare in 1 second. And the new leadership is emboldened, empowered, as you know. And they are definitely headed, the country, if you thought it was bad during the government shutdowns, I know McConnell has said no government shutdowns. If you thought it was bad then, to come back to policy now, to veer back to policy, they're going to try. They are going to, new leadership is going to try, in terms of red meat for their base, to appeal certain aspects of Obamacare. They're headed to war. These two sides are on a collision course.
Okay. Now, Andrew, the president, he took point yesterday and said, immigration reform. Hey, I can read the polls too. The same ones that you did, 57% of Americans compared to only a third. Most want to have it, okay? In fact, he referenced the past president, Bush, whose brother might be running in 2 years. Same exact plan, maybe even a more watered down one than George W. wanted. And he said, if you don't do it, by the way, I'm going with executive order, like it or not. Which side's got more to lose on this fight? Because you can argue Republicans know they got to increase their base from white guys. They got to bring Latinos into the front. And Latinos, they voted against or stayed home from the president because he didn't deliver in 6 years on immigration reform. Who's got more to gain on a policy front to get this stuff done?
I think Democrats have more to gain trying to get this stuff done. President Obama's not going to offend anybody in his base by signing an executive order when it comes to immigration, or by fighting for, vetoing Obamacare if they try to repeal it, or something along those lines.
Does he play into Republican hands to say this overreaching president?
That depends to a certain degree on the Republicans and how hard they go, for lack of a reference in The Godfather, to the mattresses on this. How hard they push this fight on any of these one issues. If on Obamacare they attach funding for Obamacare or some other mechanism that makes it work to a budget deal and say, Mr. President, you either have to sign this deal and limit Obamacare.
You agree, if they try and repeal it, that's just stupid forget about on a practical front, even on a policy front.
I think they're going to try
the public is tired of
I think they're going to try to repeal it anyway, just so that all of their members can say, look, I voted to repeal it. But the question is, how hard do they fight on any of this stuff? Do they attach it to budget bills and theoretically shut the government down? Do they attach it to other issues that they can then turn around and say, well, no, the president's the one who vetoed this. He just wouldn't come on board with us. And there are other issues, too. For immigration, Republicans have to worry about their own voters and their own primary voters in 2016. You've got presidential candidates out there who don't want any advancement on immigration reform. So how hard do Republicans fight for the positions that they have is the real question. Nobody's changed their positions.
The president, in my opinion, has more to lose on immigration. You are witnessing in full public view McConnell and Speaker Boehner saying that if the president attempts to go forward with executive action on immigration, that it's basically a declaration of war. And so they will, if the president does what he's promised to do by the end of the year, which will please many Latino organizations, it will be a full-scale war where he cannot win. All he has is veto power.
But here's where, in the last
they have the House and the Senate.
Right. In the last years, it used to be in the last year of the second term of a president, or a first term if he wasn't going to run for a second one. You guys all know it's called the lame duck. We know at this table it's now the last 2 years. The way the new math works, the way the campaigns work, they already had how many days till Iowa up? Okay. So there's three groups. You got the Republicans, and the Republican candidates. You got the Democrats who are licking their wounds after last night. Many believe in, hey, it's just a 2-year blip. Many worried it could be deeper than that. And then you got the president. Now, if you're the president, and you've gotten your you-know-what kick for the last 6 years, everybody's saying you didn't deliver on the promise that we thought you would. Even his supporters saying he isn't the leader. There's 2 new books out today just talking about the flawed leadership and everything else. What do you have to lose? You're not going to please anybody, it seems, on Capitol Hill. So you're going to say, I got Obamacare and what else? You know what? I'm going to do immigration reform. Bleep the rest of them if they don't like it. I'm going to do it anyway. At a certain point, does the president say, I don't care about the party? I'm caring about, I'm tired of this. I got no more races to run, no more elections to worry about. I'm going to worry about me. Does he move ahead and do that?
But he does have a big race to run. He does. He doesn't have any elective office to run for, but it's called his legacy. His legacy.
But isn't his legacy improved, he might argue, to get immigration done with or without Republicans?
But Richard, it may be improved with Latinos. That's one major voting bloc. If he does that, nothing else will get accomplished.
Try and get in his head.
There's
Where do you think
there's
he
one
is?
major aspect to his legacy, too, that you have to consider, and that's all. It hinges on what happens in 2016. If a Republican wins the White House in 2016 with a Republican Senate and a Republican House, everything that he's worked for goes away, from Obamacare through everything else. So he has to make sure that he doesn't rankle the population too much to the point where he doesn't give Hillary Clinton or whoever the Democratic nominee is a chance to win.
You are the only person I know who's a bigger West Wing fan than me. Yeah. Do you remember that scene after, I think it was the first year of the Bartlett administration, where Leo goes in and says, aren't you tired of living this way?
Let Bartlett be Bartlett.
Bartlett, right? And it's that moment where he says he's going to stop living in fear. Yep. Isn't there that moment now for the president where he just says, what do I care? I care, but I'm tired of this. I mean, nobody made him go out and throw the executive order as a threat. I was surprised that came last night.
The political romantic in me hopes that there is that point, and I would love to see it. I think there's some concern, a term that we've used before, the angry black man, that there's some concern of Obama presenting himself in
Andrew of that all the time.
There's some concern for the president that if he demonstrates that, that's problematic. So I think there are limits to how much he can really let himself be himself in the last 2 years. He's going to focus on his legacy and what else he can get done, but not at the expense of 2016.
So you don't think he follows through?
I think he'll follow through if he thinks it helps Democrats win the next presidential election. And by the way, I think pushing for immigration reform will help.
He's worried about his legacy, and he's got to fear, Richard. They are Jimmy Cartering this guy every day.
Well, but if they impeach him, that only helps Democrats.
Yeah, but they're not going to impeach him. But they are good. They have already effectively Jimmy Carter.
There's already talk.
As Dominic, you say, don't lose it in the break. All right, so just keep that angry going. All right, now go to Facebook and Twitter. Sound off on a question here tonight. With the election right behind us, post-election 2014, will Washington get more done? And even if they hate each other, you can make an argument that says it's in both their interest to notch a few accomplishments instead of the romper room we've seen here for the last 6 years. All right, when we come back, we're going to get into, we talked some policy here, but as Dominic took us right off field after 30 seconds, it gets into the politics too. We'll talk about the politics and where it goes from here in the next year, including who's got, by name here, the most to gain and the most interest maybe in causing the most trouble in the next 2 years. Stay with us.